happened.
Hello and welcome to School Tips episode something or other. Today I want to talk about the infamous stress tests. Basically, in many subjects, it is relatively easy to simply remember all the required knowledge and write it down on the test paper. So in order to make tests harder and to separate the competent from the brilliant, the IB loves to add a whole load of time pressure into the exams. And all our practice tests that we have now reflect this. So I want to give advice on how to manage time and stress during tests. The first step is always to compare the time you have to the number of questions you need to answer. Going by a sort of marks per minute plan can be a good idea, but whatever system you want to go with, the most important thing is that you keep track of the time to make sure that you're not caught out at the end with a bunch of questions to do and with no time left. Secondly, I would always prioritize quantity of questions answered over quality of questions answered. If you are able to give a good, solid answer to all the questions, even if a fair portion of your answers are incorrect, you'll still get a good number of marks. Of course, this might not be a good strategy in more essay-style tests or tests where you don't have time pressure. But I found that in, for example, math tests or chemistry tests where there's a lot of time pressure, just this sort of the strategy of really just trying to get it all done instead of doing it really well is often really important. But it is also important that you don't stress your way through the test. Being speedy doesn't mean being stressed. I would really advise practicing stress tests a lot, seeing how many questions you can do in a small amount of time, but without you sitting there worrying and stressing, because that's going to degrade how well you can do. You want to go fast, but you don't want to sit there and stress. There's a difference. And that takes practice, a lot of practice. An additional piece of advice I would give is to be careful when solving problems. You want to always make sure that you write down the correct value, the correct formula, and you don't forget this minus sign or that minus sign. So, really be certain what you're writing when you're doing it. But once you've finished, once you've solved the question, once you've got an answer, move on. Because trying to sort of look through the solution you've made and trying to find if there's any possible mistakes, that's difficult and time wasting. So just be careful when you're writing it. But once you're done, move on. And then don't sit there and worry if I got it right or not, just move on. And that way you can have a good chance of getting rid of sort of silly mistakes, but at the same time you don't waste time checking solutions. There's a lot more to be said. I hope you found this helpful. I wonder if you guys have anything to say, and also if there's any stories you have of sort of when you messed this up completely, because that's
Today.
Well, not for me today. Today, everything went all wonderful for me. It was like an ice.
Oh yeah,
Did
you also
have
had
a test?
Yeah.
Yes, I also had a test, which is super easy compared to you guys'.
What test did you have?
Math,
Oh, alright.
which is easy. Well, my mega point for this is my first chemistry test I had in pre-IB when I did half the test and was like, oh yeah, I'm done now. Then I flipped the page about 20 minutes later. I wasn't done. I had half the test left, and I just basically rushed through the rest of the questions, doing them basically all wrong. Somehow I still ended up with a B.
Yeah,
That's
happens.
very impressive.
Yeah, the fact that
Sure.
you managed.
I have a question for you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So you said you value like quantity over quality?
In certain tests, yes.
Because when we just did the math test, what I did was that I pick out all the 7-mark questions, I do them first, and then I struggle with the rest.
Yeah, I think specifically with this math test that we just did in AAHL, I think because there weren't many questions. How many questions were there? Maybe
Not a lot.
6, 7, right? But each question required time and focus, right?
Yeah.
It's very
Even though 2-mark
it's
one.
very time consuming.
And
Trick
only 40
functions.
minutes too.
Yeah.
So it's like there can be a whole bunch of different questions.
Yeah, so
But
I
the
think
different types of
in specific this test in specific, I think quality is actually more important than quantity because you should always look at what I do usually is that when I'm stuck in a big question that has like 6 or 7 marks, what I do is that I look for smaller questions that have maybe 2 marks or 3 marks, but I managed to do 3 of those, and that will like neutralize the points that I lost over there. That's a,
Kind of.
you know.
It really depends on the type of test. 'Cause
Yeah, it really depends. Yes.
For example, I did the first chemistry test we had, where it was lots of calculations, and I know everybody was telling me that it's really time pressured, you run out of time. I went into it with quantity over quality, and I did really well because I just went fast. And because all the questions were easy, there were just a lot of them, and you had to make, and each question was worth 1 to 2 marks, so like a single mistake was pretty bad. But the fact that I went fast really helped. But in a test, we obviously, like in some type of essay exam or a,
I mean, that's impossible there.
or a sort of math test like this, where it's a lot more about more difficult questions. The most important thing there is that you don't stress and that you focus. So it really depends. So if the difficulty lies in the time pressure, then quantity is better. If the difficulty lies in the difficulty of the questions, then of course you need to focus. And
agreed. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyone else has anything to add?
I'm kind of like thinking about bio, because I'm trying to think that, because bio aren't really either quality or quantity, really.
No, it's
none
almost,
of them.
It's almost a bit of both to an extent, because it's a lot of the time. I mean, I find the questions
Database
usually quite
questions
easy.
are only like.
Yeah, well, there it's only, you're just like, okay, I see the difference between these two graphs, and I'm just gonna state the difference there.
And that's it.
That's basically a lot of it. And then for multiple choice, I actually do pretty well at it.
Multiple choice is usually easy.
Yeah, but that's usually, it's just circle and answer.
Yeah.
Usually. And so it's just
And the long answer questions aren't even like you usually have one long answer question at the end, and the long answer questions are just reiterating stuff you've.
Yeah, but it's a lot of detail though. So you just need to write. You need to write a lot, which is why. I mean, if you do it, I mean, you still need to write.
At the same time, it's not quality though.
Although I mean, that's the thing with bio, right? It differs from chemistry or math, where you have to do calculations, you have to get an answer. For example, some chemistry tests that we've done before, they have the same feeling and vibe, like as a really hard math test. But with bio, it's just biological concepts. You have to apply that knowledge. If it's a database, so you don't do calculations, and I don't think
logical thinking. I
guess.
Exactly.
And I think quality, quantity, that doesn't really matter. You just answer the question, you move on, right?
I feel like you're never time pressured in the bio.
No,
I've never felt that way.
It always gives you a little bit extra time as well.
But I guess there could be some people who do feel like time
today.
pressure.
But it's like if you really understand the concepts, then you should be fine.
No, but today the alarm of whoever, it was so annoying.
It was Mosen's phone.
It rang early. Everyone was like, "Oh crap, has it already ended?"
But then somebody's Snapchat was also going off in the background. I was like, who is like getting snaps
I'm
now?
here.
It was like
like
twice.
everything that I'm hearing from people about this test is that there were so many sounds that kept you.
Somebody
talking.
skateboarding outside. There's a phone that went off. It was like an alarm that went off. It didn't like disturb me that much. But then the Snapchat thing in the back was just like, I don't know, it was taking me off.
All right, we're getting off topic here, but let's just wrap up.
So wrap up. It's really different, the different type of tests you do. So I'm going to try to cover these different types of tests. What I'm thinking here is this type of one where it's pretty easy but time pressured, right? And there's so many different types of tests, and the important thing is that you learn how to manage each type of test, learn what is needed. You can't approach them with the same type of strategy, really. You have to think about them differently. So do that.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Yeah, well, let's go. Nice. All right. See you guys.
Yep.
Bye.
See you for this one.